Buenos días. Ahora sí, oye.
Good morning. After listening to the presentation made by the association, we are going to start with, the conference in itself. So the first one is going to be presented by Antonio Rodriguez. I think you all know him. If you don't, is in charge, is the leader, the lover of gvSIG in the National Geographical Institute, plus all these things that you can find in his curriculum and on the web, and that I'm not going to list here because we don't have that much time. So you just have to log in Saint Google and you will find all the information about Antonio Rodriguez. So Antonio is going to talk about the implementation of the guidelines in the proposal that's being made for Spain. Thank you very much, Martin. Good morning, everybody. First, I would like to thank colleagues from gvSIG for this opportunity to speak in front of you and to talk about geospatial and the implementation of the Inspire guideline in Spain. Sites are linked to gvSIG because they share the same values, ideas, and targets and objectives. So this is why we find common points between these kinds of products. SIDE is a free software and gvSIG too. So now we are going to talk about what are the sides, and I would like to quote Carmen Martin Gaite. She's talking about the human need to share things. She said that the human need to share things is obvious, that this is something belonging to the human being. We are a social animal, we are living in a society, and we always think about the social aspect, about the group, instead of thinking about the individual. Apple has patented the page flip. You know that they have a special technique. So there are several environments where they are patenting things that are very general, that are almost hidden to a normal being, that we would never think of. But we think that it's much more sustainable to share, not to patent everything, and to make sure that the information is flowing freely. We are always trying to find the best definition to ID. IDE, we can say that it's a system of system. It's a concept that in the IT world is very well understood. It is made of different resources, heterogeneous resources, data, metadata, services, software, etc. They are harmonized and coordinated to make sure that they work with the same virtual system, and it is managed by a community. We need an idea, we need a leader to make things work. A single ID is not working. An ID is, an SDI is an infrastructure of spatial data. And the aim is for people and system to share data in the network. Community and geographical information sharing are the main keywords. The ID in Spain is a very practical system. You can find it on the web. You can share geo information and different web services. And there is a big ecosystem of available services. We have more than 2,000 services, processing services, simple object access protocol, services for the web coverage services. We have more than 600,000 petitions per year and services. So it started in 2004, so before the approval of the ISI directive. So we started to implement it step by step, but well, on the path that we started in 2004, we met some difficulties, some obstacles, and we thought that it was very important to share that geo-information on the web, and this is why Inspire is just a tool to go on walking on the same path. So we are going to study that directive, that guideline, to see a bit what are the expectations, the requirements, the rules, the calendar, the implementation status. And then we are going to see what is the importance of gvSIG tools in that environment. Well, you know that this directive is a directive for the official organism. They have to implement standard services for the visualization, for the catalogs, for the downloading, the transformation of data to fulfill the requirements of the ISI. And it seems that those services are able to use non-standard services and to transform them into standard services. We are also obliged to generate metadata, to harmonize those data, to load those data in a catalog service, and to inform yearly the European Union through a follow-up report with a series of indicators. So this big brother in Brussels is studying and analyzing what we are doing in the member states, and we're also obliged to share all our services with the other public administration. So when a public administration is asking for geo information to our services, we cannot say no. I have made a list of the things that we have to be committed to in order of difficulty and cost, as you can see here. So we have to establish some steps and to commit with the respect of ISI. So we have to publish these services and we have to respect the services. It's not too complicated, it's quite accessible. First, we have to make sure that our services are functional, for example, multilingual services. We have to create metadata for those services and to generate a catalog that is adapted to our services, and we would have, well, some conformity points, that some conformity items that we have respected. We also have to respect the availability, profitability of the services, and we have to make sure that our data are respecting the ISI infrastructure. So we have to make sure that we are committed to this conformity step by step, as I was telling you. So we have a calendar that we have to respect. We have a time schedule to make sure that we respect all these requirements. In red, we see past dates, in green, present date, and in orange are dates to come. Metadata from the Annex 2 and 3 have to be done by 2012-2013. As far as the visualization and localization services, well, you see that from November 2011, those services should be available on Inspire. As far as downloading and transformation services, we have until the end of this year, and for the revision of the data's Annex 1, it's for the end of 2012, and for Annex 2 and 3, it's for 2015. In each annex, you will find a list of items that I will read later on. But I must tell you that the European Union is always pressuring on us to make sure that we are respecting the time schedules, but they want us to go even quicker. We are expecting some flexibility, some tolerance from the European Union. There is always a 2-year space of time that we can play with, but the European Union is always waiting to put a sanction on countries like France because they have not respecting the time schedule as established. So the Commission in general is studying to see if the legal framework has been respected by the country, and if the European Union sees that we are not doing all the efforts that we can to respect the time schedule, then it imposes a sanction. But we know that in general there is a space for flexibility. So here we have the different items for Annex 1 and Annex 2. These items are defined as reference data. And these are the items from Annex 3. To show you how we are committed to following the Inspire indicators, well, you see a list of them. For example, the data and services from 2009 to 2011. We see that the figures have increased during the first 2 years, and then they have suffered a decrease because, well, at the beginning we wanted to try to cover, well, the majority of services without checking the standards and the norms. In 2010, committed to the SIGE law, well, we have started to establish requisite and requirements discriminating to see who's committed, who's respecting the directive, and who is not. So during the last report, we have filtered the different resources and we have informed the European Union of the result, and this is why some have been disappearing. We have studied the national and regional nodes in the last year. So let's have a look at the European regulation. The visualization services must respect the directive. There should be WMS 1.1.3, and they have to be multilingual, they have to be simple, they have to have extended capabilities. We have to make sure that we know in which language we are answering, what is the default language too. There are a series of names and titles for the layer of information that have been stipulated. Titles can be translated into different languages. We have to generate service metadata according to an Inspire regulation. They have to be divided into catalogs. We have to support the different system. Well, you see, there are a series of items that are not very difficult at the technical level, but we have to implement them and we have to make a lot of effort, well, to respect those requirements. And there you have the reference on the web of the regulation text. As far as metadata are concerned, well, there is a regulation specifying the kind of metadata item that we have to use. We are very lucky to have that regulation because, well, in general, the texts are very complex, they are very long, and here we find a simplification of the regulation. It's very easy to understand, it's very clear. For example, here we have the service metadata. We have the name of the metadata, the localizer, and the name and its objective. It's very simple. As far as the catalog services are concerned, including the geolocalization, in Spain we have a catalog network services. So we have the one from the IDEE that is being made with Geo Network. It is the national service with all the resources from IDEE. It's a network with 10 catalogs coming from the different Spanish region. They are doing a harvesting of the different metadata catalogs, and we only collect the metadata that have been modified, and some are getting lost in during the year, but we are really trying to build an updated catalog every year to make sure that it reflects the present situation. And if we have also the XML system in order to collect those metadata if harvesting is not working. They are loaded in a catalog services, or they are sent directly to, well, the catalog of their region or the national catalog. There is also a European catalog that's doing harvesting among the national catalogs, and the Spanish catalogs are already among, well, the catalogs of the European Union, to make sure that they are very visible. As far as the service quality is concerned, Inspire also represents a step forward. It is, well, the best attempt to define quality parameters in different countries to describe the quality of web services. They are talking about yield, availability, capacity. The availability is to try to see the time during which the service is available, for example, and the capacity, well, you understand it all. The yield is to make sure that we have a responding time of less than 5 seconds from the moment that you are sending your petition. The response should come before 5 seconds. We are also using a get map with an image of 470 Ks. And what one more time, as I was telling you, in 90% of cases, the response time should be under 5 seconds. And well, we are also taking into account the maintenance time for the availability. You see, the availability should be applied to 99% of the services, and we are also calculating the maintenance time to try to rate this availability. Those two parameters can be managed, and they are very accessible through Inspire. But I think that the main problem lies in the third factor, capacity. For the WMS, we need to answer 20 petitions per second during 1 minute, at least once per month. That measurement should be done once a month, and it should be done with packages with a 10% get capabilities and 90% of get map of 470 Ks, and the response time should be under 5 seconds in all the cases. It means to deal with 1,200 petitions, and I can tell you that the tests are very demanding. To have a response time under 5 seconds, it's already difficult, but to have right answers under 5 seconds is much more difficult. In conclusion, I would say that we have to check the quality, to check the result, and if we see that the results are not satisfactory, then we will study, well, those different factors with our indicators. We have a series of documents explaining, well, the requirements that we have to respect, to comply with in we have also in that document some recommendation in blue. Obviously, we have requirements in red that we have to comply with, and we have recommendation that we should comply with. Inspire is talking about the reference systems or coordinates and the quality parameters, metadata that we have to comply with for each topic, some recommendation on the contents. There is a general catalog that we have to adapt to, and we have to also talk about the identifiers. There are universal identifiers. It's very interesting because thanks to the different identifiers from the different countries, well, we can make sure that all the objects can have a common identifier. The layer names are set and we have to respect them. We have also a default symbols and icons. They are not very attractive, but at least they are common across Europe. One of the problems that we find in those requirements and recommendation is that we don't have an abstract suite, a methodology to check if some data are complying with those specifications. So in the model, in this abstract model, I would recommend to follow the ISO 19109 norm that is giving us some clue to see if our model is complying with the general model. So we have to do some data engineering in order to comply with that, and it's not always very easy. As far as downloading services are concerned, there is also a rule talking about the WFS service with Inspire requirements, and we find again, well, the same one, get capabilities, multilingualism, and for predefined file downloading, well, we have predefined metadata. So it's a part, an area of the map that's being captured, and but it's very difficult to have predefined metadata in the catalog. And there is also a proposal, the feeds from Atom. We don't know any implementation of that in Europe, but it's a path that we should explore. We also have some available tool as far as the map service is concerned. We have to check that it complies with WMS 1.3.0. There is also a methodology to check that compliance, and also the technical guide requisite from Inspire. It seems that it's working very well. It's available on the Czech Republic National Geo portal, as you can see there. And there is another tool from Neo Geo Technologies. It's also available and it's also very useful to detect problems and errors. Here where you see the tool from the Czech Republic that you can find on the web that you have just seen. And in that environment of the ISI implementation, well, we see that everything has been set from the very beginning, and obviously it presented a very strong support. The gvSIG portal is a client implementing, well, the different standards. Well, you will see that they are supporting 17 of them, taking into account the last version. gvSIG Mobile is also implementing 4 standards, and gvSIG, as a very heavy client, is also a very tolerant client. So when you are implementing a service and you see that the service is not working very well, well, you test it with gvSIG, and if it's not giving good result with gvSIG, then we have to change something. I mean, in gvSIG 3D, well, we have decided from IDEE to work with them. It's now it's a free software. It's an open software with which we are going to work in the future, and we want to make sure that it will soon be available. I think it's a strategic line that we want to work on. It's an open software, an open source software that we want to work with to support the compliance of Inspire. In the IDEE, we have a technical group working on standards and norms that's going to publish. They have just, well, printed the document, but they are going to issue a guide to implement WMS Inspire with GeoServer, but we are also going to do it with other software. So if you are interested, if you want to collaborate, if you want to voluntarily collaborate with us, well, you can do it. Then we have also the CNIG, part of the IGN. We are launching a new line for the checking and the quality assessment of WMS. And we really want to check the quality. If you have a service, and we are also developing an automatic tool in order to check the compliance and to issue some report.
Que detallen los problemas y los posibles.
The compliance of those tools.
Ya hemos mencionado un grupo técnico de trabajo.
I've mentioned a technical working group under CODIGE. Technical working groups are being defined for each annex. So there is a technical group for annexes 1 and 2, and next year we'll have the different working groups for annex 3. The idea is to have representatives from those responsible to publish data in a specific subject, say hydrography. And the functions of these working groups include, number one, identifying the data set that are to be submitted to the European Union, identify those responsible for the latter, and address as a team the observance of the specifications of Inspire. So it's about checking the specs and see how we all comply with the latter. And this will be useful to exchange data. Finally, the working groups will cooperate in the production of Inspire reports to see the data available and so on. This is basically where consensus will happen on how to address and approach Inspire, and the idea is to perform this as a team. In conclusion, the weak points of Inspire, the weaknesses include, number one, quality service. Our services are still slow and not adequately available. There are some solutions. First, we would have the TESL services to visualize this. And once we implement WMTS, this possibility of working in TESLs is very interesting. Then the cloud is something we should explore. Then another weakness would be verification and certification. And to have a snapshot, we have a demanding calendar, but this should be seen as an opportunity to push forward what we really want, i.e. to have an IDE to disseminate geographic information, for it to be shared and to be used as an engine. Inspire is a driver, and it's a tide that brings together many people to work together. Countries like Finland, who are not obliged to implement it, are doing so countries like Australia are suggesting them sending people to the working groups, and also in the US and Canada talk about Inspire territories with certain envy. There's an area where there's this Inspire, and the Pan American Institute for Geography and History is studying if there is something similar to implement an ISI in the continent. So Inspire has drawbacks, but the idea is to make the most of that tide of that driving force to make headway. We believe Inspire is a way to share geographic information in an open environment. In that sense, a possible strategy is what I mentioned earlier. First, identifying inspired data sets, publishing via WMS, generating service and data metadata, load them onto a catalog, and then open download services, WMS, download center, and do everything under Inspire. So we need to work for this to be available in a few years' time. As we always say, we are evolving from the previous situation, which is quite old. Francis Bacon said, "Information is power." And we've moved on to a different situation. As we always say, if you share, you win more. And this claim is by Alex Rovira and Fernando Trias, who are marketing gurus. So the idea is to collaborate, and collaborate. It's more about sharing, more sharing than technique. We have to collaborate and work as a team. Thank you so much.
Gracias.
Thank you so much, Antonio. As usual, the little we know about infrastructure for spatial information is thanks to you. So I really appreciate it. I'm sure you all have tons of questions. But we will open up a Q&A round at the end of the session. So hold your questions until we listen to our other two speakers, because maybe